going on, dudes and dudettes? So, three-star defensive end from Bakersfield, California, Grant Buckey has committed to USC for the class of 2023. It's pretty good. Another defensive guy. He is, as of this second, a three-star, but from everything I've read in those articles, it looks like he's so close to being a four-star anyway, so a couple of good stats here and there. Next season in high school, his senior year, he should be bumped up to a four-star by the time he's enrolling at USC. So once again, looks like USC might have found a pretty good, solid defensive end from Northern California. So we'll see like what he does. And Devin Tompkins, that's coming in this year as well, as from up there. He's a gigantic dude, like 6'5", 6'6", something like that. Another three-star, but we'll see how they turn out. So it's very, very good for USC in my opinion. Then Derwin James, yes, he's been subject for the Chargers to a lot of talks about his contract when it comes to an extension. Obviously, they're waiting on a couple other deals at his position, like Micah Fitzpatrick, who I believe did get a deal done with Pittsburgh to see what his range would be. I know Fitzpatrick was like about $16, $17 million a year, which is pretty good, I guess, but obviously Derwin James most likely wants to get paid a little bit more. Probably doesn't deserve to get over $20 million, even though Brandon Staley does talk about him like a Justin Herbert of the defense, where he is that important to the whole entire scheme. So they might pay him, pretty good, just to be able to keep him happy, keep him signed right away and for the long term, instead of just him being upset and not getting the contract done this offseason. So I think they are going to throw a little bit more cash at him to make him be the highest top paid at his position, at least for this moment. But I know he's been a little bit hobbled right now. He did have surgery supposedly right after the season on a torn labrum, which I'm assuming is up here. I don't know the body. But yeah, apparently he's been able to do some walkthroughs and some light practices, but wasn't really in the full scrimmages or anything like that. But he was pretty much coaching on the sideline, which is what you'd like to see from one of your star players. So yes, I think this deal will get done. Yeah, I'm not worried about his shoulder injury. He's not going to be using that part of his body later in the season, so I'm not that worried. And luckily it got done already, so he could be healthy once the season comes around in the fall. Then yes, Anthony Davis, once again, after a couple days of everybody bashed on him for not shooting for almost 2 months or even more than 2 months, he was working with one of the better shooting coaches out there. I forget his name, Shooter Elite, something like that. But he was pictured with him. I didn't see any video of actual shots getting up, but assuming he's working with him, and obviously even LeBron James came out with the highlight video on his social media, pretty much on Anthony Davis's side, in his corner, saying oh yeah, just wait till this guy gets released, and once he's back to 100%, yeah, I guess we could hope and wait. But whenever that season comes around, it always seems like he's never fully 100%. So I don't know what's going on with him. And then USC's interior offensive lineman Andrew Voorhees, once again a great Halloween name right there. But apparently, according to PFF, I believe it was, he is considered the number 2 overall interior offensive lineman for them going into next year's draft, which is pretty good because you can still get drafted pretty high as whenever you're at that position on the offensive line. But I did see that an offensive lineman, I think around the same position for Boston College, recently tore his ACL. And according to Mel Kiper of ESPN, he was projected higher than Voorhees, from what I believe. So maybe Voorhees can start climbing up everyone else's boards at the moment, and especially if he stays healthy this year and doesn't give up sacks or pancakes or get beat up too easily on the offensive line for USC, he will be one of the top offensive linemen drafted in the first couple rounds, I believe, in my opinion. So all we can do is hope for the best. And then Duke, apparently, according to this betting website, I forget which one it is, but even though it's been a couple months since those odds have come out, I think since after the tournament ended in March or April, whatever it was, they are considered still only the 5th best team to win the championship next year. in March Madness, which is pretty crazy because they got some of the better players not only coming out of high school, but a couple of good, solid players returning as well for them. Obviously, somehow North Carolina is ahead of them, even though they only returned like one or two older guys and have pretty much a bunch of new guys, so I don't really understand that, but I guess it's because they were just in the national championship game, I believe. But overall, I think this betting website will be eating their words, even though being top 5 is pretty good. I mean, there's some other teams on there I can't even believe that are on there, like so high, like odds to win, and even USC is not even up there when they are considered to be one of the better teams, and I believe they will be ranked pretty early in the year at some point, but even they don't even have some best odds to win, which is pretty insane because most of those teams on there on that list are not going to get anywhere close to even the Elite 8 or Sweet 16 in my opinion when the tournament comes around next year. Then USC Athletics, yes, they teamed up with a new third-party company for their name, image, and likeness, their NIL deals, and it's called Stay Doubted. So NIL, as I've tried to explain before, is you're pretty much getting paid now for your name, image, and likeness while you're going to college, which is pretty cool. So you can do signings or take pictures or do whatever to be able to make a little bit of extra cash while you're going to school, just using your brand and what you are as well. And this is how pretty much other schools have gotten away from it, because a school technically can't just give you the money, even though I'm pretty sure that's what happened everywhere. But now they've set up to where a third-party company can set up whatever and distribute the money to these players however which they choose, and that's how everybody's pretty much been doing it. Like, say, offensive linemen come to Texas. I think they said they came to Texas, they get like 150 grand or something like that, but they somehow go through, most of these places go through like car dealerships and whatever boosters, really rich boosters that support the school. They all set up these weird other things to go through all these other channels, so it's pretty interesting to see how it gets done. But it's pretty obvious once a lot of these schools get certain players that they maybe would not have gotten before, but they just were able to offer the most money at that point. So it's interesting, but it could get pretty dicey once the NCAA starts regulating it a bit more, in my opinion. And then, yes, sadly, the NBA season ended last night, but sort of in a good way. I guess I'm more than 50% happy just because the team that I wanted to win more than the other did in Golden State, so congrats to them. But obviously, kind of feeling a little bit sorry for Jayson Tatum. He didn't have the greatest performance in a pretty much series-clinching game to end the season. I think he missed or took more shots than he actually made in points, which is always not a good thing. Yeah, he was just very bad, and of course everybody was bagging on him, which sucks, but obviously he's a pretty young guy still, but he is going on to his second contract, so he has to get a little bit better unless they make a pretty big trade, which I think could happen. I would not be surprised if Bradley Beal is somehow on that team within the near future, because they are both from St. Louis and they're a pretty good friend as well, and Bradley Beal is a very excellent player. I would hate if he would go to Boston, but we will see. And then, yeah, congrats to, Golden State and their dynasty, as they call it. I mean, they were able to go to, two to three straight finals or something like that without KD. But even that first championship they won, I forget the year, 2015, 2016, one of those. Yeah, you were pretty lucky that it was only LeBron you were playing against, and he didn't have Kevin Love or Kyrie Irving, both of his two top stars, out that whole series. And, pretty much a lot of people were talking about even at the end of that series that LeBron should have won the MVP even though he was on the losing side. But he didn't, so you got that victory. Then the next year when you won 73 games, you beat the Chicago Bulls 72 series. You went all the way to the finals, and you ended up losing another 3-1 deficit to freaking Cleveland. You guys let that go, so I don't know how that was possible, but I guess because you were in the finals, that's okay. And yeah, all you did the next year was just get the another top 2 or 3 best player in the NBA. Somehow that trade and that signing was legal according to the NBA, where they got Kevin Durant, and he led you basically to the finals because he won 2 of those finals MVPs that you were there, and you went to a 3rd straight with him, but you lost to, the Toronto Raptors and Kawhi Leonard, which was kind of a surprising team, but that was pretty much because of how much playing they were pretty much doing, going to so many straight finals, and Klay Thompson getting hurt, and eventually Kevin Durant getting hurt as well. But once they lost those guys, they didn't make the playoffs or even win. But now you got a young team in Boston who, from the get-go, I don't think was going to win anyways, but there was a possibility they could upset. But even in the most important game, in Game 5, who stepped up other than Andrew Wiggins, who I think could have been the MVP, the Finals MVP, if he had just as big, if not a bigger game this last game last night compared to Curry. But because Curry had a bigger game last night and had the 40-point game as well, they pretty much gave him the MVP. But Wiggins was very consistent throughout this entire finals run, in my opinion, as well. So it could have almost went to anybody else. And yeah, it's Curry's first MVP, but it's also, he could have not gotten any of the MVPs as well. He probably could deserve the first one points-wise, but Andre Iguodala was the best player, made the correct plays down the stretch against LeBron, in my opinion, that first title. But we'll get off that crap. I spent too much time talking about it. So yeah, CBS Sports, I don't know, I didn't read this article fully, I just saw the headline and thought it was cool, but it says that the Chargers have 9 of the top 100 players in the NFL. It's pretty good. You have like almost 1/10 of your players on that list. But I don't know if that was meaning from what the players they have that did on their team that they did last year, or is it the guys that are on your team now going into this season coming up. So obviously Khalil Mack would not be on that list for them, but if he is and the numbers are higher, it's probably just because he is on there as well. But you have a lot of good players: Joey Bosa, Derwin James, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler as well. Probably you might throw Keenan Allen in there as well, so it's pretty good. Maybe a Rashawn Slater, but it's still pretty young in his career, even though he was an all-pro left tackle in his very first year, his rookie year. I'd like to mention that. Then the Duke players pretty much got their brand new numbers, or a lot of the incoming freshmen got their new numbers. A lot of the older guys have been there the past couple years, stayed the same numbers. Jeremy Roach, I think, is still 3, something like that. Or it might be 0, I forget. But they pretty much stick with the whole lower number, 0, 1. I think Whitehead is 0, Lively is number 1. But the most important number I look for is my favorite number 14, and that is the sharpshooter Jaden Shutt, who is a 4-star shooting guard. So he is supposedly one of the better shooters on the team. So hopefully he can contribute, because that lucky number 14 will definitely help them out. So you got to play him, Coach Shire. Then USC basketball scheduled a neutral game site, so they're not going to be playing at each other's homes apparently. I forget where they said they're going to set it up, but USC is going to play Colorado State this fall and next fall as well. It's part of like some weird deal that they're doing, but kind of surprised because yeah, Colorado State, I think they made the playoff or the tournament last year, but you could have gone with a better team in that Mountain West Conference, like a BYU, even San Diego State, something like that, to give your resume a little bit better looking when the March Madness tournament comes up. But that's just my opinion. Then Blink-182's Dude Ranch came out 25 years ago, which is pretty crazy. Obviously, they have a lot of hit songs like Damn It, so I guess this is growing up. Like, that song was always in a lot of early 2000s, college or kids stories, something like that, especially like that Bubble Boy movie. It's in that movie a couple of times. But yeah, that's a great song. Josie as well. That's another good song. Even Enthuse, another deeper cut if you actually listen to the whole record. It's a really nice song as well. So very crazy that it's 25 freaking years. It's pretty awesome. And then to end on this, some miscellaneous news. Taika Waititi, a bit more news is coming out about his Star Wars movie. saying that it's definitely going to be, he's wanting to expand the universe and not pretty much use any characters that we're known to seeing before or have been related to anybody or anything like that. So he wants to do a completely different story, which is pretty awesome. I don't know exactly timeline when it's set, but I'm definitely all for this because I'm tired of going to the same places, Tatooine or anything like that. I'd rather go somewhere else, and he's gonna make a bonkers Star Wars movie that most people are gonna probably dislike, but I think he's still gonna put his touch on it, and it's still gonna be funny, very heartfelt, crazy action sometimes, crazy story as well. So definitely looking forward to that. Thanks for watching, people. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye. Bye down.